I've been poisoned 3 times.
Now let Diddy out. Free Diddy.
Wow, you think somebody didn't want me to do this interview? Yeah, somebody didn't want me to do this interview. Why are so many people coming down with pneumonia?
Ray J's next revelation stunned the court into stunned silence. "Free Diddy!" he yelled. How did Diddy, a seasoned artist, so obviously lose his temper in a courtroom?
I think it's kind of becoming a circus, and all the allegations, and now with everybody explaining like what's happening in the bedroom. I mean, every day it just sounds crazier and crazier and freakier and weirder, right? And I'm like trying to understand, with all this being said, like with Kid Cudi going on and saying everything that happened, but then ended up saying Cassie played both of us. It's like, where are we trying to go? Are we just trying to like tell all of these crazy stories and then that equals out to sex trafficking? I mean, it's starting to become outrageous. It's a RICO case. It's really only Diddy and maybe one other person. Like, I'm just starting to feel uncomfortable and I'm starting to feel weird about this whole thing.
Well, it was certainly interesting last week when I interviewed this guy who had the pseudonym The Punisher, who was hired, and it was Cassie Ventura. Right, so it was a sort of very interesting interview because Cassie Ventura did all the negotiating, did all the payments, and did all the texting to him. Diddy would sit in the corner of a hotel room naked, and he would watch, with her apparent full consent, this guy come in and have sex with her. And it happened maybe a dozen times over a 2.5-year period. Now, none of that says to me that that is a serious crime. If she is the one that is organizing it all. Now, she is arguing it was coercion and so on. You know all these people very well. You know Cassie Ventura. You know Diddy well.
When Dylan sat at the defense table, the judge and the packed gallery observed every move he made, adding to the already tense atmosphere in the courtroom. With practically every seat filled and cameras blasting outside the doors, the trial drew both reporters and spectators. As reporters glanced through their notepads and people spoke softly, the atmosphere was packed with excitement. But even in a trial that had already taken many unexpected turns, no one could have predicted what would happen next. After sitting quietly in the crowd, Ray J suddenly got to his feet, and his shout could be heard over the muted "Free Diddy!" he cried, his voice echoing from the courthouse walls, setting off a tone that instantly silenced the crowd. As Ray J's tirade cut off the judge, the entire gallery gasped, demonstrating that, for a split second, there was more than just rage behind his words. There was desperation. Diddy's generally composed demeanor was disturbed in the middle of a sentence when he shifted uncomfortably at the defense table and the judge's gavel loudly cracked on the bench, demanding an order. He avoided staring at the scenario unfolding a few feet away from him, shifting his hands on the table. While several jurors exchanged bewildered glances, others kept their gazes fixed on Ray J as he attempted to make sense of the situation. At the same time, it was clear that the lawyers on both sides were hurriedly debating how this interruption may affect the case. Beyond just supporting Diddy, Jay's comments had weight since that there was more going on than meets the eye. "You are all looking in the wrong direction," he added, his voice growing even louder. "You don't even know half of it." In addition to seeming crazy, Ray J appeared to be making a point that none of them were prepared to hear, and the courtroom was tense as the crowd's whispers grew louder and their curiosity transformed into outright conjecture. The words, "free." Diddy weren't the only thing that made him uneasy. Ray J's subsequent insinuation sent a darker message. Diddy's discomfort was more noticeable as his eyes darted about the room as though seeking an escape route, and the tension was nearly palpable. Everyone had to deal with the fallout from Ray J's anger, as his cryptic hinted at a secret that had not yet been made public. As security tried to process what they had just witnessed, Ray J was eventually brought out of the courtroom. But his comments had a profound impact, and the mood of the room had entirely shifted. Reporters quickly took notes while the crowd continued to whisper. Ray J. What could he mean? What secret might be so risky that he would jeopardize a tantrum at a trial with such public scrutiny? Above all, how did Diddy get involved in this? Regardless of the response, it appeared that the trial had just taken a surprising turn.
I was just thinking, like, what year are we in? Like, it feels like we're in this vortex of like this dominatrix story about all of these different characters that are coming out, and the names and the nicknames, and I mean, it's intense. I think that it's entertaining for sure, and it's definitely press worthy. But at the end of it all, it's like, this is what Diddy is being charged for, and this is what he possibly might serve a lot of jail time for. I don't understand it, and I really want to know where this is all gonna go and where does this lead? Because again, it's weird, it's freaky. Like the whole oral thing with the 19 guys and the blisters. I mean, it feels like they're just trying to paint these pictures of Diddy. And I was around Diddy all the way pretty much up until the arrest. And all I got from that when I hung out with Diddy, and this is word to my mom and kids, he's always inspired me to be great. When I left, I felt like I could do more for my business. I felt like I had more power because I wanted to be more vocal in running my companies and call my wife if we were getting into it and send her flowers. I mean, these are all the things he was instilling to me and all of the young guys around that were inspired and you know, look at him as a mentor. So now these private things that happen when we were around and never even got a chance to see this kind of crazy stuff, it just sounds like this was a private, personal thing that was happening, and now it's starting to become it's diabolical.
The courtroom struggled to restore order following Ray J's violent outburst. After being brought back to the witness stand by security, he sat down clearly shocked but resolute. Still visibly annoyed by the commotion, the judge pounded her gavel again and ordered stillness. Everyone's attention was captured by Ray J's composed yet passionate voice as the whispers ceased. "I'm not just here to defend Diddy," Ray J stated, in a forceful tone. His following statements weren't just surprising, they revolutionized the room. "I'm here because someone tried to end me, and I'm done staying quiet about it." Immediately, the gallery was tense. The crowd in the rear became restless, and the air grew heavier. As they scrawled quickly to capture every word he spoke, a few reporters exchanged astonished glances. Diddy ducked from everyone's gaze as if he wanted to disappear, and the prosecutor glared, obviously shocked. Ray J said, "They have been moving around as if they have already won." As he kept scanning the room, everyone's eyes naturally turned to the defense table where Diddy sat and said, "They know who they are." Ray J then revealed the shocking information. He added, "I'm talking about James Winston," his voice quivering slightly as he made sure every word was understood. Like a thundercloud, the name hung over the space. Before the judge asked for an order once more, the audience gasped, and one woman in the gallery said, "What?" Few people were likely to hear of James Winston, a well-known figure in the entertainment industry. It was startling to learn that Winston was suspected of attempted murder because he had business dealings with some of the biggest people in the industry. Waves across social media as well as the courtroom as the news quickly went viral. Some reporters shared the story live with their editors, while others hurried to type more quickly, whispering the name into their phones. But as Ray J continued to detail events that he felt amounted to a concerted effort to silence him, his claim was more significant than simple rumors. He experienced mysterious warnings, near-death experiences cloaked in mishaps, and a horrific experience where he thought his life was in jeopardy. He said, "I've been holding in for too long," while glaring at Diddy across the room. "But they know I'm right. They know what they did." The judge tried to hold the court together by warning them not to be bothered any longer. But everyone couldn't take their eyes off Diddy, whose face was unreadable, but whose hands made the smallest uncontrollable movement on the tabletop as the chamber was once again filled with whispers. It was clear that this assertion wasn't merely a diversion. It now felt significant to Diddy's trial, leading many to question whether Ray J had any supporting evidence. Whatever followed could not be disregarded since Ray J's testimony hung in the air like smoke.
Sounds to me, unless I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you think that there's been a massive overreach here. This is personal behavior between Diddy and Cassie Ventura that we've seen so far, that it doesn't cross the line from where you sit into serious crime. under the RICO law, which of course was intended for mafia members and so on. Do you think that's what we're witnessing here with this case, that this was consensual? It may be freaky, it may be sexually deviant, it may be all these things, but it was apparently consensual behavior and not a crime.
I agree, and there's things that we saw in these videos, they were disturbing, and that's not okay, right? But looking at the crimes that he's being charged for, this is where it starts to go overboard, and it's like whoever was mad at the top was really mad, and I think we're here now, and I think it's a flex, because like, what are they trying to get out of this in this court case? Does everybody that's talking about these stories, do they want to see Puffy rot in jail? Is that what we're here for? Because I just think that that's unfair, and just knowing everybody, it just could have been done a different way, and now it's starting to worry me, and I honestly think that Diddy will get out, and I think that there's nothing here, right? I think they made their point, whatever they were trying to make, your point is made.
Diddy was well known for his collected coolness and for rarely letting his emotions show through his polished public image. Yet when Ray J's allegations pierced deeper, the painstakingly built facade began to show signs of strain when the name of James Winston was called. Diddy's posture tensed, yet his initial response was so understated that it was telling. His jaw stayed tight, his eyes were set straight ahead, and his left hand, which had been steady on the tabletop for most of the trial, slowly grasped the edge of the table. Although it may have appeared calm from a distance, anyone closely observing could see that tension was already starting to build up. The trial's basic principles had clearly been altered by the claims, and both sides' attorneys scrambled to understand this new, unsettling development. But in the gallery, the change was immediate. Diddy, assessing his remarks and reading his body language, avoided looking into their eyes, or anybody else's for that matter, instead lowering his head a little and moving his hand to fix his collar as though the air were suddenly choking him. Diddy did not respond, as his lawyer leaned in and quickly whispered something in his ear. It was no longer only about Ray J. It was now about Diddy bearing the consequences of these accusations and how the public would perceive every flaw in his meticulously cultivated persona. Ray J's cracks were beginning to show as he continued to detail what he said were planned attempts to kill him. The phones buzzed from muted vibrations as tweets and texts came in faster than anyone could keep up with, reporters leaning into each other to double-check Winston's name spelling and already planning the headlines they would publish the moment a break was called. Diddy started to stutter. His shoulders drooped a little, his breathing appeared laborious, and for the first time since the trial began, he laid both hands flat on the table and pressed them against it as though to ground himself. But it was when Ray J related a particular incident, a purported near-death encounter involving manipulated brakes on his vehicle, that even the whispers were stopped. Diddy lost all control and sat back in his chair, letting out a large breath. His lips briefly parted as if he was going to reply, but he instantly caught himself and clenched his jaw once again, indicating the seriousness of what had just been uttered. Every response, every movement, every ragged breath, all of it was noticed. And as Ray J's testimony drew nearer to his proof, it appeared that whatever composure Diddy still possessed was borrowed time, even though his silence loomed larger than any words he could have spoken. Outside, social media was already exploding with speculation about Ray J's claims and whether Diddy was crumbling under the strain.
Whenever they have an addiction to MDMA or the drug ecstasy, they call it the love drug. So he's been doing this drug for over 20 years. So that's gonna lead his view skewed when it comes to sexual activity. I believe it's helped turn him into a sexual deviant. And what type of man wants to see another man urinate in his wife's mouth? I feel like it's evil. I think his behavior is egregious. And I have a history of using very heinous acts on people like this who participate in this type of lascivious acts. Have you ever noticed how in this industry, people untimely meet their demise as soon as somebody else seems like they're having a problem? Have you ever seen that before?
Well, there was, of course, the case of one of his other ex-girlfriends, Kim Porter, who died of pneumonia at a very young age. You just referenced your own situation with pneumonia that you believe was deliberate poisoning. Do you believe that may be what happened to her?
Jamie Foxx said out of his mouth that his partner handed him an Advil, and after he took that Advil, he woke up 22 days later. That's what he said out of his mouth. I feel like us as a species, I feel like human skepticism has become a virus, because if we don't trust the words of our peers, where are we as a species? You know, eyewitness testimony and circumstantial evidence is enough to get a person a life sentence in any court on the earth. Why is it that when people are whistleblowing and putting their life and livelihood on the line, they receive so much scrutiny? I don't think that's by chance.
There have been rumors circulating online that Diddy may have poisoned Jamie Foxx, which caused his 2023 hospitalization. In his Netflix show, he compared Combs to the devil in revealing his near-death experience after a brain bleed and stroke. He said, I say this all the time, I saw the tunnel, I didn't see the light. It was hot in that tunnel. I thought, shit, have I gone to the wrong place? I looked up at the end of the tunnel and I thought I saw the devil saying, come on, or was that Puffy? I'm effing around, but if that was Puffy at a flaming bottle of Johnson, and no, I'm just kidding, I think that you have taken that to be a not too oblique reference to the fact that he's suggesting he may too have been poisoned.
All eyes were on Ray J as he paused and drew out the time after the judge ordered him to continue his evidence, even though his prior statements had already unnerved the courtroom. As though no one dared to breathe, the hush was so dense that even the smallest squeak of someone shifting in their seat looked briefly magnified. Ray J cleared his throat and got going. He leaned over the microphone on the witness stand and said, I brought receipts. What followed was quite intriguing, in fact. He started by pulling out a stack of printed up emails that he said were direct exchanges between himself and colleagues of James Winston. Ray J highlighted several horrifying statements in these letters, one of which he read aloud. We'll make sure you're silenced permanently if you keep talking, and let the weight of the words hang in the air, despite the somewhat opaque language used overall. The courtroom grew hushed as everyone awaited his next move. He then looked at phone records, which he said showed multiple calls from an mysterious number. Ray J believed that these were not just ideas, but cautions related to specific circumstances. He reportedly warned, watch your back. Accidents happen every day, just hours before his near-fatal car breakdown. The defense initially objected, arguing that it was hearsay, but the judge allowed the presentation to proceed, stating, the evidence will speak for itself. What truly shocked the courtroom, though, was when Ray J showed a picture of what he claimed were altered brake lines. He described from his vehicle how his mechanic had found the problem and how, in his view, the deliberate damage wasn't consistent with regular wear and tear. Unable to hide their interest, some jurors leaned forward slightly, while others maintained a neutral expression. Ray J did not bat an eye when the prosecution questioned him about why he hadn't come out with this material sooner, an attempt to damage his credibility. This isn't just about me, he stated. I stayed quiet because I was scared. I didn't know who I could trust, but now I've had enough. Although the evidence was circumstantial in several cases, it was powerful enough to unnerve everyone, and the lawyers huddled in whispered conversation, leaving the courtroom quiet. It was clear that Ray J's accusations had the potential to profoundly change Diddy's trial, career, and public perception, regardless of what transpired next. When the session broke for recess, the judge's demeanor stayed neutral, but it was clear that she was also thinking about the importance of what had just been given.
Because the last time I was scheduled to be in this interview, randomly, our car gets hit from the side by a blacked out vehicle, no license plate. That's happened 3 times this month so far.
Really?
Somebody didn't want me to do this interview. Yeah, somebody didn't want me to do this interview. You know, I'm somebody where I've had FBI come to my house before and tell me they found a threat against my life.
P. Diddy, this seems like every day the scandal gets bigger and worse for him.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I'm not surprised whatsoever. I mean, I think I was on your show before he got arrested and I brought up what was going on with him, and because I had read through the lawsuit, and it was just one of those things that was unavoidable because there was so much evidence. I mean, there was picture documentation, there was video documentation. And I also want to be clear that the press and the media and the public at large is shocked by what's happening, but we really are just getting to the beginning of everything.
A lot of things start happening to remove people from the case that are going to strengthen the case for the prosecution. And I feel like we're watching that take place now with one of the male sex worker guys who provided tapes to the feds. He's disappeared. And this is similar to what happened in the Tory Lanez case, where the bodyguard whose DNA was on the weapon, he disappeared.
She and Cassie needed to sway Kid Cudi against telling the cops that Diddy was involved in the alleged break-in. Clark testified, quote, he says, if you guys don't convince him of that, I'll kill all you MFers. But that wasn't the only time that Clark said that she feared for her own life. She claimed Diddy once accused her of stealing diamond jewelry. Said that she suffered through 5 straight days of lie detector tests inside of a gutted, rundown Manhattan office building. She testified the man giving the tests warned her, quote, I'm not getting a good reading. You need to calm down. You're going to be in the East River if I can't get a reading on this.
And the prosecution had alleged in its opening he had staffers who helped him commit crimes that aren't necessarily charged, statute of limitations expired, etc., but that he committed as part of this overall criminal enterprise. Phil, let me start with you on whether the prosecution is making its case.
Well, it sounds like, Megan, they're finally getting into some of the meat of the matter, because up until now, we've heard a lot of emotionally charged testimony. We've heard about domestic violence. We've heard about, third-rate burglaries and things like that, like you were just discussing. But we haven't heard much about how this was some type of criminal enterprise related to, sex trafficking. We're starting to hear now that who these people are that are the other racketeers. You've got other employees, security personnel. And so the government is starting to make its case. They've got a long way to go. But until today, I had a lot of reasonable doubt that things that I was thinking about, because these witnesses all seem to have some degree of kind of affection for Combs, or maybe had affection in the past. And it may be that they all had some kind of an angle, some incentive to testify against him, maybe sour grape.
Within hours following Ray J's testimony, his claims were included in the news headlines of every major media outlet, demonstrating the immediate and significant impact of his evidence. As social media erupted in hypotheses, memes, and disputes turning the trial into a cultural phenomenon, fans, critics, and onlookers took sides as the Or Die Free Diddy began trending globally alongside more speculative ones like Rajwasite and Winston. The public's attention was drawn to the entertainment industry by Ray J's accusations, which also raised uncomfortable questions about what else might be going on behind closed doors in the courts. What started as a Diddy-focused trial has suddenly evolved into a complicated web that links fear, power, and the unspoken risks of famous existence. Their plan had been straightforward until Ray J's disclosure, which kept the jury focused on Diddy's claims. His powerful testimony made everyone reconsider, and his charges against James Winston revealed a much bigger plot. During the break, the defense unit surely gathered to discuss the implications of this new course. Maybe that would strengthen their case. While prosecutors were facing mounting pressure to address whether Winston's claimed involvement caused valid doubts about Diddy's guilt, Ray J's story might cause the jury to completely lose sight of Diddy's actions. The trial, which had formerly had a clear path, was now far messier, and both sides seemed to be painfully conscious of just how much more significant Diddy's life had become. The ramifications went far beyond legal strategies in the court of public opinion as sentiments began to shift. Even Dottie's biggest fans suddenly had to deal with awkward questions after he had long balanced his reputation as a cultural hero against continuous controversy. Did he know more than he told, or was he a willing accomplice in a larger plot? The zeal outside the courthouse extended into late-night conversations as media pundits conjectured that this trial may reveal flaws in a decades-old entertainment business. Jay's accusations not only implicated Winston, but they also made him well-known. Demands to look into his motivations surfaced almost instantly, with some skeptics denouncing his testimony as a phony. Being open and honest, especially in a high-profile trial such as this one. Once molded by music and reality TV, his reputation now bore the weight of something far more serious. The most notable part of Ray J's testimony was when the judge addressed the courtroom just before his trial began, regardless of whether it was accepted or not. Allegations of this magnitude must be thoroughly examined, she said, looking directly at Ray J before recess in a calm but forceful tone. It wasn't a dismissal nor an endorsement, but it was an acknowledgement of just how serious the situation had become. By the time the court closed for the day, it was still unclear whether Diddy's defense was to blame for the mayhem or whether Ray J's evidence could withstand scrutiny. Even the largest empires can be upended by the revelations made in celebrity cases, and this one is no exception. It was clear that whatever transpired next may alter not only the trial, but also the lives of all those concerned. Ray J's shocking disclosures have brought the high-stakes and uncertain world of celebrity, where even the smallest mistake may knock towering reputations to their knees, into clearer focus. However, when insufficient explanations and unanswered questions. This trial is far from over. The outcome could alter lives and careers forever. Nothing in the world of high-profile scandals is ever entirely as it seems. If this example has taught us anything, keep checking back as more details become available.